Now, one of the things about the real estate market, if you watch the real estate news regularly, it's always a housing affordability crisis. Prices are too high, rates are too high. It's always mysterious. How does that happen? Like, do rates just go up on their own? Are they kind of like the weather? We don't know really how rates come. It's just the whole thing's a mystery. No, we know darn well that when the government spends money, takes it from taxpayers, there's less money in our pockets. When they print more money, that just causes prices to go up. Basic fundamentals that anybody with common sense, anybody's ever played Monopoly would understand. But what the news has to do is never talk about the truth and always create a villain in every story to blame for you to be angry at rather than the actual problem. So again, housing problem, simple. If the government just spent less money and printed less taxes, we'd have more money in our pocket and inflation rates would be less. We could all buy more houses. But when you take a look at let's take a look at an analogous industry to housing. One would be cars, right? The major cost people have in life is their housing. And a second one that might be similar in some regards is buying a car. Particularly today, cars are very expensive. So here's an interesting article I saw recently. America's 4 largest car companies all passed on the Super Bowl for the first time in 23 years. Now, that's an interesting story, right? Is the Super Bowl ad not effective? They're still selling cars. All those car companies advertised on every other football game I watched all year long. Why would they not on the Super Bowl? But rather than analyze that, they continue the story, and the race to catch Elon Musk could be the blame. It's Elon Musk's fault that they can't advertise the Super Bowl. Now, as if advertising the Super Bowl is a problem, it becomes Elon Musk's fault. Is that really his fault? Is he the reason why, it was an interesting story that Elon noted that when President Biden first became president, he invited in all the electronic car manufacturers except Tesla, who is the largest electronic car manufacturer, the only one making a profit while the other ones are losing money. I don't own a Tesla. I don't own an electric car. Back then, I wasn't a particularly big fan, but it is fascinating that the electronic vehicle market seems to be Tesla against all the rest. But here's a case where the news industry is feeding that or writing that way, right? The reason why they're not advertising in the Super Bowl, as if that's bad, is because of Elon Musk. Oh, and side note, you may have noticed, Tesla doesn't spend any money in advertising. You have the most valuable car company in the world. The biggest, I think, car model sales is the Tesla Y. Certainly profitable, successful company by every measure, doesn't spend $1 on any advertising. And here the news article is blaming Elon Musk for not advertising the Super Bowl. The whole thing is pathetic, but really it's designed to distract you from the real story. What's the real story? The real story is automobile sales are terrible, but not just now. Automobile sales have been terrible almost my entire adult life. I'm looking at this chart. New vehicle sales quarterly mean millions of vehicles. And if you notice in the last few years, even before the pandemic, much less than the years 2006, 1998, I think was the peak year. How can it be we have less cars sold today than over the last 20 or 30 years? Our population has grown. You would think that like any business, you'd have a steady increase in car sales. And yet you can see, obviously, that's not the case. And so I think what this graph does, like the home sales graph, shows that our economy is not working. People can't afford to buy homes and people can't afford to buy cars. That's the problem they want to talk about. That's what they want to deny as the real issue. They want to talk about the housing affordability crisis, Elon Musk, Super Bowl ads, and not say Americans need to make more money and keep more money in their pockets after taxes. And if we made more money, if we kept more of our money in our pockets after taxes, we'd buy more houses and cars. And a lot of other good things would happen. Another side note to all that, let's not pay attention to the real problem. The other real problem is, in my experience, in my time in this industry, we've not built more housing than the population growth. If you look at the number of houses in America, it's stayed about the same over the last 40 years, even though our population has increased tremendously. So you can argue all you want about home sales not going up, but if you don't allow home builders to build homes, how can you afford to sell homes?